Avalanche has just posted a pretty crazy number that I don't think enough people are talking about. Over the last 30 days, real-world asset transfer volume on Avalanche reached roughly $365 million. That's an increase of around 360%. And I think this could be a really important development for AVAX long term. So first of all, what exactly are real-world assets? RWAs basically take traditional financial assets, things like funds, treasuries, equities, and private credit, and bring them onto blockchain infrastructure. And that's exactly where Avalanche is starting to see some serious growth. That $365 million in 30-day transfer volume means we're not just seeing companies announce partnerships or say they're experimenting with Avalanche. We're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars of tokenized assets actually moving across the network. And that's the first reason I think this is bullish. It's actual usage. Crypto projects announce partnerships all the time, but ultimately investors need to see people and businesses actually using the blockchain. And a 360% increase in RWA activity is a pretty strong sign that Avalanche is gaining traction in this area. The second reason is the type of activity we're talking about. This isn't just meme coins, NFT, or speculative crypto trading. We're talking about tokenized funds, equities, treasuries, and private credit. And that's important because these markets exist regardless of whether crypto is in a bull market or a bear market. Financial institutions will always need to move money, settle transactions, and manage assets. So if Avalanche can become infrastructure that some of that activity runs through, it could potentially create a more sustainable source of network usage. And the third reason I'm bullish is simply the size of the opportunity. Think about how enormous traditional finance is. You've got stocks, bonds, government debt, investment funds, private credit, and eventually, potentially even things like real estate moving onto blockchain infrastructure. Avalanche doesn't need to dominate the entire market though. If it can establish itself as just one of the major blockchains used for tokenized finance, that could potentially bring billions of dollars worth of activity onto the network. But there are some risks here. Firstly, 360% sounds incredible, but it's coming from a relatively small starting point. Even $365 million is still small compared to the traditional finance markets Avalanche ultimately wants to serve. And secondly, RWA growth doesn't automatically mean AVAX price growth. Institutions using Avalanche doesn't necessarily mean they're buying huge amounts of AVAX. In fact, despite the massive increase in RWA activity, AVAX's price hasn't seen anything close to a 360% increase. That's a good reminder that network adoption and token price are two different things. So for me, the next thing to watch is if this growth continues. If $365 million eventually becomes $1 billion, then several billion US, while more financial assets move onto Avalanche, that's when the investment thesis becomes much more interesting. Because the biggest takeaway here isn't simply that Avalanche's RWA volume increased 360%. It's that we're starting to see measurable real-world financial activity actually happening on Avalanche. And if it continues, Avalanche could become one of the blockchains powering the tokenization of traditional finance. If you did enjoy this video, please subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss future crypto news videos.